Welcome back, everybody, to the School Leadership Show. With me, as always, co-host Jen David Lang.
I feel like you get more excited with each introduction. Thank you, Mike.
I do. I couldn't be more excited because the only reason I put out any of these episodes is because you're on me and you helped me do it. So thank you.
Accountability. We hold each other accountable.
Accountability, yes. And speaking of accountability, we're going to be talking about something that is sort of a new-ish concept in the world of K-12 education, but not a new concept overall. The idea of mastermind groups as a method of professional learning. So, Jen, tell why did you pick this topic?
So
Beyond the complete like self-promotion piece of it.
I'll tell you both. But to start, so for a long time, I have been thinking of the idea for many years of running an online PLC for school leaders. I thought it would be great to bring school and district leaders from all over the country together for professional learning, because we say that teams are so important, right? And we put our teachers into teams. We say collaboration is so important and we put our students into teams. But the school leader doesn't really have that same kind of opportunity. And then on top of that, school leaders get the least amount of professional learning in the building. And I read some research a few years ago that said about 1/5 of new principals leave their jobs each year. And in fact, we just saw a recent article about the New York Times about superintendents leaving their jobs during the pandemic in record numbers. And then this other research said that principals who hadn't received PD were 1.4 times more likely to leave their position than those who did receive PD in the previous year. So more principals are leaving who don't get any kind of professional development, professional learning, and school leaders are the ones to get the least amount of professional learning in the building. So I really thought if we put together groups of school leaders, maybe we could counter this effect. But I didn't do anything about it until the pandemic struck last March. And I thought this is a perfect time. So I reached out to my colleague, Mitch Center, who's been a teacher, principal, district leader, and we decided to put together groups of about 8 to 10 school and district leaders, and basically to create what we're calling masterminds. We didn't come up with the name. There are other mastermind groups, particularly in business and in nonprofit world, and there's a few in the world of education. And basically we took these groups of about 8 to 10 school leaders from all over the country, and we would meet.
Jen, how did you, okay, so we got to back up because there's a lot in there for people who have no clue what a mastermind group is. So you mentioned the acronym PLC, which unfortunately I feel like has become a garbage term where anytime two or more educators talk to one another, it's a PLC. Okay.
Okay.
So, all right. So masterminds generally are like a group of some number. I'm going to ask you about why 8 to 10 in a second. Yeah. But a group of people in similar parts of an industry that get together regularly for structured conversations. And I would imagine eventually you'll get into some of the things that you talked about. But I want to know why 8 to 10? Why was that the magic number?
That's a good question. It seemed like you want more than just a few, because you'll see it's not about me and my colleague, imparting our great knowledge. It's everyone pooling their knowledge and strategies. So it seemed like having too many, there wouldn't be enough time to speak. And if there were too few, there wouldn't be enough ideas generated to keep the buzz going. So.
Okay, that makes sense. So, all right. So how did you recruit people for these groups?
So I run a service called The Main Idea, where once a month I send a book summary to thousands of school leaders all over the world. And so we ran a pilot where I sent an email out to my subscribers and I said, hey, do you want to try for 4 free sessions to come together for 1 hour every other week to try this mastermind group, which would be an opportunity for professional learning, problem solving, strategy sharing, support, and feedback, because all of us were going through, oh my gosh, we just got hit by the pandemic. Our entire world is changing. Let's come together. And so we had an outpouring of people who wanted to try this. And we started with 4 groups. We picked about 40 people. And after we met for 2 months, twice a month for 1 hour each time, it became clear that this was something incredibly useful for school leaders. So then we decided to launch year round. And basically we decided to keep the same structure that we had developed. So I can tell you a little bit more about what the hour looks like, or you let me know if you want to go in a different direction.
Yeah, start with what it looks like, and then I'm curious because you said you found it to be really effective. So I want to know, what are your criteria, or how did you determine that you felt like it was effective? So either order.
Yeah. Well, first, so you can really picture what it's like. So, about 10 people sign on for an hour. And we start each session with a shared Google Sheet where each person has a row. And at the end of the session, each person records one big takeaway or one commitment, so that the first thing we do each session is we go back to that commitment. Because as you know, in the life of a leader, a lot happens in 2 weeks. So they look back for 2 weeks ago, what did I commit to doing? And they meet together in partners to share their commitments, like you and I were joking about our accountability. It's like a bit of soft accountability. This is what I did or didn't do or I thought. And then we always check in because it was a crazy time. People were losing students or teachers to COVID. It was, that we definitely had a check-in time so people could share how they were feeling. And you have to imagine, as a school leader, it's very lonely at the top. Sometimes it's hard to bring your authentic self when either you're meeting with, teachers or students and families, or also with your boss, your superintendent. So this was a way that peers could meet and nobody knew each other personally. You could really share, I am just completely overwhelmed with what's happening right now with COVID-19. I have no idea. I don't even, one person said, I've never even used Zoom before. I don't even know how to go in and observe my teachers on Zoom because I don't get all the links. So there's a check-in time to share how you're doing. And then we usually bring in some type of new information, new content knowledge. So, me, I'm all about summarizing. So I would often put together a 1-pager that everyone would read, a 1-pager about equity, a 1-pager about distance learning, a 1-pager about leading in uncertain times. And everybody would turn off their videos and for 5 minutes read the 1-pager, because we knew people were very overwhelmed. They weren't going to read chapters of books, before each session, and plus all the information was so new. So we read for 5 minutes on the topic, and then we engage with it. We did Zoom polls, we discussed in breakout groups, we grappled with the new information, and people shared what they were doing. So if the topic was leading in uncertain times, someone might say, oh, this is a strategy that I'm using in my school. I'm doing virtual one-on-one check-ins, and it's really helpful to keep my fingers on the pulse of what's going on. Or, oh, I'm planning a virtual graduation, and this is how I'm keeping morale high, and this is what I'm doing. So people get new information, not just from the 1-pager, but from hearing what people in totally different parts of the country are doing. And really, that's where the value of the mastermind comes from. It's everybody's collective wisdom. What we like to say, our motto is, the smartest person in the room is the room itself, the room of people. So then after we have grappled with some new information.
So hang on.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Okay, that is pretty catchy. The room is the smartest person in the room.
The room is the room. Yeah.
The room is the room. It's very meta. I'm fine with it. I'm just gonna let it go. All right. Okay. But so did you do any kind when you were grouping? So you said you had about 40 people that you put into 4 groups. Did you make similar homogeneous-y type groupings, or were you did you put building leaders together and central office leaders together and superintendents together, or were they completely random?
So to be completely honest with you, as a school leader, it's very hard to carve out 1 hour every other week. So people often only had one time slot they could do. Thursdays, 9 a.m. on the East Coast, which is 6 a.m. on the West Coast. I can only do 6 a.m. on Thursdays because then I've got to be on all day. So we did it by time, and we weren't sure how that was going to go, but it actually turned out to be incredibly beneficial to have a district leader who's in charge of, let's say, instruction and curriculum, and an assistant principal and a principal. It turned out to be incredibly useful. It was
exactly. I was exactly thinking that, how the heterogeneous groups would be more effective. And from everything we know about teaching and learning and adult learning, choice is such an important thing. So letting people drive their choice based on the time that works for them, I'm sure had an important impact on that.
Yeah.
Did you get any feedback though? Sometimes I feel like sometimes central office administrators who may be a bit more seasoned, maybe have held the role of assistant principal or a director, and now they're a deputy or assistant superintendent, or maybe even a superintendent. Did you find that were they being looked toward to give more information, or were they equally able to learn from the group of people they were with?
If you had been a fly on the wall, Mike, in one of our meetings, you would not know who was the assistant principal and who was the superintendent. There were a couple of reasons for that. One, other than a few assistant principals, some of our principals most of them had decades of experience. My co-facilitator and we thought, a lot of first year, second year principals are going to show up. No, I think we had one first year principal and one first year assistant principal. A lot of the people, 5 years, 7, 8, 10, one principal with over 30 years of experience. So it turned out that it was actually the more seasoned principals who chose to join us. Maybe the principals who didn't have as many years under their belt, maybe they were just completely overwhelmed with COVID. I mean, everybody was overwhelmed by COVID, but some people chose to make this a priority, their own professional learning.
See, and I feel like that makes sense to me, because people who would be willing to make that effort to invest in their own professional learning would be invested in it. So that's pretty cool.
That's what made the difference. That's what it was. People who were here, no one was requiring them to be here. People were here because they valued their professional learning, and they read and they went to webinars, and all of them brought so many strategies, resources to the group. And so I'm going to tell you the last part of the hour, and you'll see in particular why.
Yes. So just to review, so it was you provided some sort of short form content. You gave them time to read it, and then talked about it, and then what?
And then we saved the end of the meeting, where each session one person presented a problem of practice, something they were grappling with in their own school or district, and they'd have a few minutes to present. And then the group asked clarifying questions. But then after that, the presenter had to close their mouths. I know that's very hard for school leaders. And the rest of us just brainstormed ideas of all the things they could do. And the presenter scribbled away like pages and pages of strategies and ideas. And the truth of the matter was, many people scribbled down pages of ideas, because when a certain principal presents a problem, chances are other people have the same or similar problems. So, and we call this the think tank. When you're in the think tank, you present your problem to the think tank, and the think tank brainstorms, and you get a lot of ideas. So want some examples of topics that people shared?
Definitely.
Okay. So how to deal with having one toxic teacher on a teacher team. How to deal with the fact that twice as many students in the school are failing during the pandemic than the year before. How to eliminate a once beloved but now clearly seen as racist school mascot. How to get teachers to plan curriculum for the upcoming year when they are just burnt out by this year of upheaval. How to celebrate virtually at the end of the year. Just big brainstorm all of your ideas. So these are the kinds of problems that people would bring, and we would brainstorm, and you would be amazed and impressed with the number of ideas and resources, because people would share ideas, but they'd also say, oh, here's this article, I'm dropping it in the chat. Oh, here's this decision-making tool we use, I'm going to drop it in the chat. Oh, here's a video we just showed to my entire faculty, it is fantastic, dropping it in the chat. So the ideas came from everyone, and that's why it was important that everyone's there, because they're dedicated to their professional learning, because the quality of ideas shared was just outstanding. And then at the end of the think tank, people have now had 55 minutes of new ideas from the one pager, new ideas from the think tank, from the conversations. Everyone's given 5 minutes to reflect. And on the shared Google sheet I talk about, we called it the one big thing. I got that from my colleague, Danny Bauer, who also runs Masterminds. And you write down one big thing from the day, from the session, or one commitment. And it's not quite a quote, but John Dewey said something like, you don't really learn by doing, you learn by reflecting on doing. So to just stop for a moment, the ideas have been flying, let's be quiet, and just what's one thing you want to take from today that you can implement in your school or district? And that's how we would end.
That is spectacular. So you said you did this pilot with 4 groups, and then you transitioned it into a more formalized ongoing structure. I'm curious, what did you learn or change between that pilot group and then sort of the production group when you started?
We didn't really change a lot. People really liked the one pagers and they liked us introducing a lot of professional learning structures, because what they said was that they were able to attend our mastermind sessions wearing 2 hats. 1, as a participant in our group, and then 2, as someone who was going to go back to their own school, either with teachers or leadership teams or principals, and they were going to introduce the same thing. So they could take our one pager, and if it applied, let's say, our one pager on equity was 5 key mindset changes needed for more equitable schools, they could have their faculty, all their teachers, read that one pager silently, just like we did, and do similar discussions. So people really raved about the one pagers. They loved the think tank where someone shared a problem of practice. So we absolutely kept that. We thought, maybe we should do 2 a session, but we realized with time short, we kept it to 1. And we said people could also use that in their own schools, right? Imagine a team of teachers and one teacher presents, this is a problem I'm having. I just can't get my students to turn their video on during Zoom classes, and they could present the same way that our leaders presented. So we really kept the structure the same. One small cosmetic thing we changed was we changed the name of the think tank. It was called the hot seat, and people felt that they were, sort of it was too touchy to be in the hot seat. People much preferred being in the think tank and having the think tank surround them.
That's so funny. Like, really? Come on. Okay. I'm fine with it either way, but that's pretty funny.
Yeah. No big changes.
So are you still keeping the groups right around 8 to 10?
Yeah, so it's rolling. Basically, some people sign up for 6 months, some for the year, and so we generally sometimes have more people sign up, sometimes fewer. So it ranges somewhere between 7 and 11 people for each group. We opened up a 5th group because it was very popular. So we have 5 groups that meet at different times.
And do you have room in groups? Like, if people wanted to join one of your groups, could they?
Yes, actually, we a number of people, it's just about a year since they signed up, so they may, we don't know if they'll continue, but yes, I have room. I will be having room in all of my 5 groups. Right now I have room in about 2 of them, but very soon all of them. So if anyone wants to reach out to me at my website, themainidea.net, they can ask for information and look into one of these groups.
That is spectacular. So, Jen, any parting thoughts on Masterminds? I think it's a great concept. I'm glad that you translated it into something for K-12 educators, because I know it's a big thing in, tech entrepreneurship and business and things like that. So, and focusing on giving people something to chew on in terms of some content at the beginning and a discussion, and then investigating a problem of practice. Like, we know how effective that is in terms of helping people move their own practice forward. So super cool.
Yeah, I think, just parting, I think that this checks off a lot of the boxes of what research says works for professional learning, right? We know the one-time sit and get PD doesn't work. But if you look at the research of, say, Linda Darling-Hammond out of Stanford, she really talks about the best professional learning. It's content focused. It involves collaboration. You have models of effective practice. It involves some coaching, some expert support, and opportunities for feedback and reflection. So I think the ongoing nature of this checks off a lot of those boxes and seems to be incredibly valuable for people, where they could take money and go to one PD conference, for 2 days, or they could stretch it out and meet with other people once every other week for a year. And it just seems to be a very effective model. And I think people can absolutely take pieces of it and do it on their own. It's not expensive. It's not, difficult to access. It's something that really all leaders can access. And we've really seen a shift in leadership. Leadership is no longer just solving, the old technical problems like, how do I arrange the schedule so all math teachers can meet? Now leadership is much more adaptive. We're trying to solve problems that we've never solved before, right? How do I respond to a crisis that's never happened before? How do I adapt my school for a changing world? How do I address deep-seated issues of inequity? These are all problems that have never been solved before. So it really helps to bring together a group of leaders to pool their expertise. It's an incredible game changer.
Well, and helping people build their own networks, because I imagine that, you have the hour where everybody's together, but then I'm sure folks are connecting offline about things and supporting one another, and building that professional network is something that we just do not do enough of in an affirmative way in K-12 education. In business, people, they are taught how to network and taught how to build their group, their support system out there, where in leaders in public education, we don't always provide people with that opportunity. So I think this is a great way of doing that, and so many benefits. And Jen, I appreciate it. And we'll make sure we have your contact information in the show notes, so that if people want to hit you up and maybe get into one of your mastermind groups. I wasn't invited to any, so I don't really know how they are, but I'm glad to hear you talk about them.
Well, then come.
I'm kidding.
I just invited Kim Marshall. He's coming this week on Thursday, so maybe you can come next time.
Yeah, I can't be in the same one as Kim Marshall because I will be too fanboy.
Everybody is fanboy, but I told him he's just visiting. He
just Kim Marshall.
He doesn't. Don't worry.
Well, and I mean, for crying out loud, you put Jen David Lang and Kim Marshall in the same masterminds group, like a mind blown. Like, I can't even.
I'll just regular people. You'd be surprised, but the best ideas will probably come from other people. You'll see.
Well, that's because you and Kim are both amazing leaders and can pull that out of people. So this was a great conversation. I appreciated the topic, and I think this was a good one. And our next one is another summary, right? You want to give any preview or just make people wait?
Let's make them wait.
Make them wait. Sounds good. Jen David Lang, always the co-host of the School Leadership Show. Thank you so much. It was great to talk to you as always, and we will see y'all next month.
Thank you, Mike. The time always flies with you. I appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the School Leadership Show, a podcast for aspiring and practicing school leaders. Send your comments, questions, and show ideas to me, Mike, at schoolleadershipshow.com. And please consider rating the podcast in iTunes and leaving a comment. And definitely pass the show along to your colleagues.